Hi everyone, in this video we'll figure out how to simplify square roots. Okay, when simplifying square roots, there's basically two main rules that you gotta remember. So let's say we got the square root of a times b, where a is a number and b is also a number. This is the same thing as square root of a times the square root of b. Another rule you should probably remember is, let's say we have the square root of a over the square root of b. This is the same thing as the square root of a over b. These are the same thing. So these are two rules that you should definitely remember. Okay, let's get into a basic example. Let's say if we're trying to take the square root of 12. Okay. Okay, so we're trying to take the square root of 12. Now, when we're simplifying the square root of 12, let's think about what two numbers would multiply to 12 in which you could take the square root of one of those numbers. So for example, in this case, we know that the square root of 4 times the square root of 3 would equal the square root of 12. Remember, this is using the first rule I told you guys. The square root of AB, which is 12, is equal to A times B. 4 times 3, which is equal to 12. Now, can we simplify one of these? Yes, we can. We can simplify the square root of 4, which is equal to 2. And we can't simplify root 3, so we just put it there. So this is equal to 2 root 3. Okay, so let's give us another example. So let's say if we had the square root of 32. Now, we know that the square root, okay, what two numbers when multiplied together equals 32, but one of the numbers you can also take the square root of. We know that the square root of 16 times square root of 2 is equal to the square root of 32, because 16 times 2 is 32. And you can also take the square root of 16, which is equal to 4, and the square root of 2 just stays there. So you get 4 root 2 as your final answer. Okay, I'll give you guys another example. Let's say you're trying to take the square root of 27. Now, for this one, you know, square 27, what two numbers multiplied together equals 27? Well, we know that the square root of 9 times the square root of 3 equals 27, because the square root of 9 times square root of 3, 9 times 3, when multiplied together, is 27. And now, can we simplify one of these? Yes, we can. The square root of 9 can be simplified into 3, and the root 3 stays the same. So still root 3. Okay, now I'll give you one last example of this case. Okay, so let's say if we had the square root of 8. Try and simplify this. Okay, so we know that the 4 times 2 would equal 8. And we can take the square root of one of those numbers. So the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. Because square root of 4 times square root of 2 is equal to square root of 8. Because 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, so we can take the square root of 4 because it's 2. And the root 2 still stays there. So it's just 2 root 2. Simple. Now let's get into the fractions part. Let me give you a simple example. Let's say if we had the square root of 40 over the square root of, let's say 4. Now, can you simplify this? Yes, you can. Let's change it into the other format first. Square root of 40 over 4. And now, 40 divided by 4 is equal to 10. So this is equal to root 10. It's as simple as that. Let's get into another example. Let's say if we had the square root of 20 times the square root of 5 over the square root of 2. Now, we know the square root of 20 can be simplified into the square root of 4 times square root of 5. Square root of 5. And there's also another square root of 5 here over square root of 2. But generally, you want to get rid of the denominator. So can one of these be simplified further? Yes, it can. the square root of 4 can be simplified into square root of 2 times the square root of 2. So let me go further down and write that again. So we simplify to square root of 2 times square root of 2 times the square root of 5 times the square root of 5 over the square root of 2. Now, we can cancel one of these square roots of 2 from the top and from the bottom. So now we get the square root of 2 times the square root of 5 times the square root of 5. But we know the square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is just equal to the square root of 25. And we know the square root of 25 is equal to 5. So now what do we have as our final answer? We have 5 times root 2. So we write 5 times root 2. And that's our final answer. Okay, let me go with let me go to the next topic. What if we want to add square roots this time? Okay, so let's say if we had 2 root 12 plus 9 root 3. Now, when you add two irrational numbers, or when you have like these radicals and you're trying to add them, this part has to be the same for both of them. So this part has to be the same. So how can we do that in this case? We got to simplify one of these into the smaller number, which is the root 3. So we got to simplify root 12 into root 3 somehow. Well, we know root 12 can be simplified into root 4 times root 3. We still have the 2 here, plus 9 root 3. And we know what the square root of 4 is. That's equal to 2. So 2 times 2 is 4 times root 3 plus 9 root 3. Now we can finally add these together because these are the same. So 9 plus 4 is equal to 13, and the root 3 stays the same. So this finally simplifies into that. Okay, let me think of another example. So let's say if we had 2 root 18, and we're trying to add that with 4 root 2. How do we simplify this? Since these are different, once again, we can't add them directly right now. Instead, we have to simplify one of these into the smaller radical number. This is the smaller one. Root 2 is smaller than root 18. So we're going to try and get root 2 over here as well. Now, can root 18 be simplified? Yes, it can. Root 18 is the same thing as root 9 times root 2. The same thing as 2 times root 9 times square root of 2 plus 4 root 2. And now the square root of 9 can be simplified into 3 because we know 3 times 3 is 9. So now what do we have? We have 2 times 3, which is 6 times root 2. So 6 root 2 plus 4 root 2. So what do we have in total? We have 10 root 2 as our final answer. Okay, that's basically the main 3 concepts. We'll get into adding variables later on, but if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. And thanks for watching, guys.